Hi guys, time to make myself unemployable for all future jobs. Hi guys, I'm back with stories. Trust me when I say this, I'm surprised that I have any stories left to tell because I feel like I've told all the stories of my entire life on the internet. I don't know how I'm going to continue making videos, especially when I'm not making any new experiences or memories. So today I want to share some stories from past jobs I've had that I was not allowed to tell until I quit all of them. I've been working since I was 15 years old. I was able to quit all of my jobs about a year and a half ago because I was finally able to do YouTube full time, which still feels like a dream. Every day I am so grateful that I'm able to be a YouTuber because this is literally my dream job and I don't even feel like I'm like working, and I really have no complaints. But I have a lot of complaints about my past jobs. My 5 years of food service, I've seen some shit and I have done some shit. So, but honestly, this might be my last video about jobs because I already did a podcast about this. I already did a video where I quit my job at Chipotle and some story times from there, but I want to have it all in one video. Before we get started into this video, make sure that you subscribe if you want to be nasty, and if not, you're disgusting. Also make sure you have your bell notifications on so you know every single time I post, or else you are gross. Like some of these stories that I'm about to tell you. Okay, let's start off with my very first job, which is a popular Italian ice custard type of place. Let's call it Schmieda's. It seems like a very fun place to work, especially for your first job, and it was really fun because all I got to do every single day was eat all the Italian ice, especially when it was, you know, not busy. While I worked at Schmieda's, I was very much so aware of all my milk allergies, but I still ate everything there. Here's some disgusting things about Schmieda's though. The custard machines at Schmieda's, they were only cleaned once a week. If you were getting a nice little cup of Schmieda's custard, that dairy, that liquid dairy that then turned into custard, was sitting there in the machine for a week, nozzled, not cleaned, nothing was clean, literally nothing was cleaned. It was cleaned once a week. On top of that, I remember working the one day and a family who was speaking Spanish came up to the window, and my boss, in the background, doing her little thing, whatever she was doing, was laughing and telling another employee about how her husband hates Mexican people. Yeah. Child labor laws? Who? The rule was that there needed to be 2 people in the store at all times. I can't tell you how many times me as a 15-year-old I was alone in the entire store, just running the entire store as a 15-year-old for hours. And because of that, I ran into so many issues. I was taken advantage of by so many older men. If you've ever worked at a cash register, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Older men would come up to the window, would order something, and pay with a $10 bill. So let's just say that I had to give them back $5 because their order was $5. So I would hand them back the $5 bill and they would say, "What are you doing? I handed you a 20. When they very clearly handed you a 10. And the reason that they did that was to take advantage of you and get more money back. And I fucking fell for it every single time. It wasn't really that I fell for it. It was more so that I was like, what was I gonna do? Continue to argue? I was like, no, you gave me a 10, and they would get angry and then raise their voice at me, and then there's nothing I can do. I'm alone in the entire store. I'm scared. I'm 15. So then at the end of the night, when my manager would count my drawer and I would tell her what happened, she would check the cameras and she would also look at my drawer and see that I'm missing money. She'd be like, yeah, you got scammed. It's coming out of your paycheck. I don't know if that's right. There's another guy that I got hired with and he was my same age. Let's call him Brogan. Now, even though Brogan and I lived like less than 10 minutes apart from each other, I went to the inner city school. I lived a more like city high school life. Brogan went to the high school that everyone hunted and fished and was racist. So very, very different lives, okay? So Brogan and I did not have a lot in common except for the fact that we're both Polish. However, I was Polish in the sense that Polish was my first language. We celebrate Polish holidays, we spoke Polish to each other, that kind of stuff. Brogan was the type of Polish that says he's Polish and get Mrs. T's pierogi from the grocery store and like to tell everyone that they're Polish. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with it. Brogan developed a fat crush on me because he's like, oh my god, nice little Polish girl that I can take home to my family. I did not give Brogan the time of day, okay? One day we're on the topic of conversations about last names. He had a very Polish last name and I didn't, and he asked me why, and I said, well, that's because my dad is from Iran. Where's Iran? And I was like, you know, the Middle East. And he's like, you're talking about Iran? When Brogan found out that I was not a 100% Polish woman and that I was in fact half Middle Eastern, it was like his favorite gun broke. It's like he just found out that Trump had lost. And he looked at me and told me that I should probably go back to my own country. Oh Brogan. Brogan and I quickly became enemies because I was not fulfilling his little Aryan fantasy. He said a lot of awful, racist, sexist, homophobic things. And when things started to get really, really bad and Brogan was ignoring me, wouldn't want to work with me, left me to do all of the work because he didn't want to be associated with me at all, I decided to go to my big boss. Not the one who said that her husband hates Mexicans. No. I decided to go to my big boss, step above her, who is also South Asian. Told him that Mr. Brogan told me to go back to my own country, all the other awful things that he had said, and Mr. Brogan decided to quit because he just couldn't handle the heat. Brogan's mom then came to visit Shmitas and complained to my boss about why would I just keep causing problems with her son. I checked up on him recently, decided to see what, he's up to. He has a baby and he drives a big truck. I'll quickly touch on my babysitting job. I don't remember much of it. I do remember that I spent a lot of my time there just making sure that they didn't kill each other, making mac and cheese, eating their Triscuits that they had in the pantry, and playing with their cat. That was really it. So it was my last day ever working for this family because I was going off to RA training. Seems like a normal day. I'm excited. It's my last day. We're going outside, we're playing in the pool, and I look over at the middle son, and half of his face is paralyzed. Completely droopy. Literally, I was like, he's having a stroke on my last day of babysitting ever. I have a baby with a stroke. I literally cannot believe my life right now. I'm taking him out of the pool. I'm letting his mom know. His mom is rushing him to the doctors. I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna go to jail. Like, this is terrible. How could I let a kid have a stroke? How could I let this happen? Turns out that it is Bell's palsy because he got a tick bite because they lived in the woods and he has now Lyme disease. I'm sure he's fine. I did a whole RA storytime video, also another college storytime video if you want to go check those out, but I do have 2 small stories from being an RA that I have magically remembered. One of them was that we had a squatter. I think that's what... Squatter. We had a squatter in the building. There was a girl who moved out of the building, turned in all her keys, just like left, stopped paying for everything. But then somehow we find out that she's still in the building, like somehow mysteriously just like getting into her room. I think her roommate may have reported her, like somehow just like living in an empty room, just existing. So we had to have flyers and photos around being like, do not let this girl into the building. She seems like a threat to herself and others. I don't know. I just remember that there was a photo sent to the group chat being like, if you see this girl, stop her. I don't get paid. I don't get paid actually. So another day was actually my very first day of being an RA and it was move-in day and the building caught on fire. But a girl came up to me and she's like, my boyfriend's here. He's somewhere in this crowd of people of move-in day. He's following me. He followed me all the way from Delaware, and he has a gun. He might be looking at us right now. I'm panicking. It's my very first day of being an RA. I'm like, what do you mean he has a gun? What do you mean he knows that we're talking right now? I had to pull this girl aside, had to call in the right authorities, had to call in the authorities. Everything worked out in the end. Well, she did go missing. I cried in the bicycle room to my boss, who I literally just met, and he's like, this job is crazy, whoa. And the last place that I'm gonna be talking about is Bubolte. I worked at Bubolte for 4 years. 1/5 of my life I spent rolling little burritos. Now, I think I've fully come to terms with the fact that Elf Cosmetics is not going to be sending me their PR package with Bubolte. I've come to terms with that now. I don't think I'm gonna get sponsored by Bubolte either, so I also don't know if I want to. And that's why today Bubolte is getting exposed. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Like Shmitas, Bubolte did not care about child labor laws whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that there was a giant lawsuit against Bubolte in recent years about making their children work so many hours. 16 and 17-year-olds have no business working 40 hours a week during the school year. They did not care. They would keep me there till 1 a.m. if I had to close. Here's the thing, no one is ever at Bubolte for like a couple months. Like, that doesn't exist. You're either at Bubolte for approximately 2-3 shifts and then you give up, or you're there for so many years that you just cannot get out. Your clothes permanently smell like onions. I was one of those people because I thought me getting paid $10 an hour was good. start paying your employees more. In my experience, the nozzles on the soda machine, they are never cleaned. There is black gunk in there. I cleaned them when I would close, but I don't know if they've ever been cleaned after that. You are drinking the devil's sludge. The oil in the fryers, that is cleaned like once a week. Maybe. I know many times when that oil was starting to get black, and that shit was not cleaned for weeks. I could argue that older oil makes it taste seasoned. I'm emphasizing that this does not happen at every single Bubolte, I am sure, but at least from the experiences that I've heard from other people and other places and off of even TikTok and my own experience, Bubolte is such a sexualized place, it's so weird. You think that the band kids in high school have a lot of sex? No, it's Bubolte workers. Not I, because I was busy rolling burritos. But all of my coworkers were getting it on. It was almost incestual because all of them were having sex with one another, having babies with one another, having sex with people who had babies at home. One of the reasons I hated working there was because all of the women who worked there were so overly sexualized, especially the younger women. There were people who were hired simply for the reason that there were people on the staff who wanted to have sex with them, and they told the hiring managers, hire these people because I want to have sex with them. I was continuously being sexually harassed and made uncomfortable at work every single day because of the older men at my job. I was 16, 17 years old, and there were men in their late 20s, 30s, even 40s who were working there and making me feel uncomfortable, saying disgusting and sexual things to me. And then when I said, I'm leaving, I'm transferring to a different location that is not going to treat me like this, and they didn't, I was told by one of the managers that it was my fault and that I'm just too sensitive, and that kind of shit happens in the real world. I remember that was like the shtick for a while, like, don't talk to Nikki, she's the baby, she's underage. Older men did not give a shit. I remember there was one dude, he always made me so, he made everyone uncomfortable. He gives me a note and says, can you give the customer who just went out onto the patio, can you give her my number? I'm like, no, she's just eating, she's just enjoying her food, like, just like leave her alone. He's like, no, go give it to her. I go out onto the patio, I give this girl his number and I say, don't call or text this number. He's a creep. Don't even bother. I'm just giving it to you so that it looks like I'm giving it to you. Don't bother. He's a weirdo. He literally tried to get with me. I'm a baby. We laugh, we haha, we make fun of him. I go back inside and he's like, did you give it to her? And I was like, yeah, it went great. He would also beg me for rides home all the time. Just be like, hey, it really sucks that I don't have a ride home. It really sucks that I'm gonna have to walk an hour home at night alone. He was pressuring me and making me feel so incredibly uncomfortable and just being like, hey, it would really, really help me out if you took me home. Like, I would really, really appreciate it. I was like, there's no fucking way that I'm taking this man home. But I agreed as long as I was taking another girl home. So I was like, come on, I'm taking you home tonight. And I was like, we're dropping him off first, then I'm gonna drop off you. And then I remembered that I didn't even drive myself to work that day because it was freezing rain and snowing and my mommy dropped me off at work that day and she was picking me up. But then this dude persisting, he's like, well, you still have space in your car. I was like, my mom is not taking you home. We're going home. Good night. My best friend actually got a job working at Bubolte too after I worked there for some time. My bestie was on the cash register and it was a very, very busy day. Two men walk through the line. One was on his cell phone the entire time. The other one orders one single bowl. They get to the cash register and they ask my bestie, hey, we want 10 gift cards with $50 on them each. My manager is suspicious immediately and she's just like standing there watching, but we can't like intervene because these men are not doing anything wrong so far. She's ringing them all up, and the way that the cash register worked at the time, I don't know, it could be different now, but the way that the cash register worked at the time is that if a card had declined, it did not tell you. So if a card declined, you wouldn't find out until way after. And the way that these gift cards would load is that they would put in a price and you would swipe and instantly those cards would have that amount on them. This man pays for the food, pays for the 10 gift cards, and they bolt out the door very quickly, come to realize like 30 seconds later that the card declined because they did that on purpose. So now they have $500 in their possession in a stupid little carnitas bowl. My manager, full speed, is like chasing after these men in the parking lot. I don't know why she would do that, but she she felt powerful. She was a powerful woman. Turns out they did that to like all the locations in the area, and it was like on the Chipotle news, and they were like, look out for these two men who are trying to scam you. And on to my last story. In my experience, a lot of people who leave Bubolte and are finally able to be released from that hellhole tend to have this weird little superiority complex. Like, we all started at the same place. You are no better than I am. So I remember there was this one girl who moved on to do great big things and make much money. She comes in to get some food while me and my coworker are on break, and she comes in with her little model boyfriend, and they order their meals and stuff. And I remember she was talking to us, she looked at my coworker, she's asking how her life is, asking what she's up to. And then she turns to me, who was 18 at the time, and keep in mind, this girl and I were very close in age, but she just happened to go a different route of her life, and I was just in college and kind of just unsure with what I was doing, like what my college major was and what kind of job I wanted in the future. She looks at me and in this condescending tone goes, have you figured out what you want to do with your life yet? And I had to sit there with my little bowl and look at her and go, no, I don't know yet, but I'm gonna figure it out. And bitch, did I figure it out. I just remember feeling so small and like I was being talked down to by this girl. I am so confident in where I am in life right now and so happy. Yeah, girly, I did figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Have you? I still sometimes romanticize my times at Bubolte and being an RA. I miss it sometimes so much, but like I said, I'm so eternally grateful for the job that you guys have given me every single day. I feel so lucky that I get to wake up and this is my job. I cannot say thank you enough. I will never, ever take this for granted. I'm being so dead ass. I remember when I was working at Bubolte, like one of the hardest summers of my life, and that was the last summer I was gonna work at Bubolte ever, but I didn't know that yet. And I remember telling my mom that this time next year, so summer of 2020, that I was going to be doing YouTube full time and this was going to be my life and my job, and I did it and I'm so happy. Thank you guys so much again. I hope that you guys liked this video because I had a lot of fun making it. If I ever happen to come up with more stories, if like a hidden part of my brain is suddenly unlocked, I'll let you guys know. Make sure that you leave this video a like because it helps me out so much. Also, leave a comment. What is one of your favorite stories that I told today? Or what are some crazy stories that you have from your jobs? Because I want to hear. Also, make sure that you subscribe if you want to be nasty, and if not, you're disgusting. Also, make sure I have your bell notifications on so you know every single time I post, or else you are gross. Like the men at Bubolte. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, Twitter, Depop, Spotify, it's just at Nicole Rafiee. And if you want to follow me on my TikTok, it's at Nikki Nasty. I'm gonna go now. I'm actually craving Bubolte now. This is not good. Okay, goodbye.